You good? Yeah, excellent. Just before I start, how many people here are new to Semantic MediaWiki or would call themselves a beginner? Excellent. So more than I thought there'd be, actually. I thought this talk would be addressing more to the audience or people who are new to, who don't know anything about Semantic MediaWiki. So really, firstly, myself, as correctly introduced, over the last 2 years, what we were doing was introducing a wiki into the military as a way of introducing new capability and measuring the risk of ICT being brought in and the risk that actually presented and measuring that risk. So understanding the operational need of a capability versus the risk and how that could actually be measured. And previously that was done with PDFs and is extremely difficult to do. So we tried to tailor a wiki for, I think there's a bit of feedback here, isn't there? There we go. Can you still hear me? Yeah, cool, thank you. So the wiki was there to actually adjust the risk according to that capability. I'm in the process of leaving the Air Force, hence I've moved to Dublin. So really what I wanted to do was to give you my view of Semantic MediaWiki. Now the problem is, it is my view. You ask 100 people what Semantic MediaWiki is, you'll get 100 different answers. That's a great thing in terms of the flexibility of Semantic MediaWiki. It's a terrible thing in terms of trying to sell Semantic MediaWiki because it's an extremely difficult concept at times for people to understand. What I also want to do is talk about modern DevOps methodologies and actually how Semantic MediaWiki leans itself towards that as well. And I'll give you a few examples of that as well. So don't worry, I'm not going to do a Yoda impression. That'd be a very bad start to the talk. But what I want to do is, we all have this person in our organization, the person that is your go-to person, who you know, what they don't know about the company, you could put on a postage stamp. You know, what do you do when that person leaves the organization? Do you have impeccable information management in your organization, the perfect induction process? Do you know what you're supposed to be doing? Do you know what everybody else is supposed to be doing? Most of the time, I would suggest the answer is no. And if it isn't, well, there's probably 2 reasons for that. One, your company is just you, so hopefully you do know what everybody else is doing. But you never know, maybe one day you want to expand and you want to have more than one person in your business. The other option is that you are slightly optimistic. Okay? So this is a problem that is faced by every organization. Luckily, I have the solution. It's built on the backbone of the world's knowledge. The majority, almost everybody on the internet has used this format to absorb information. It encourages, almost demands collaboration. It's an open architecture, so you're not transferring Yoda's knowledge into proprietary software. It is captured and then made to be used and made to be releasable if you require it. It adapts to your business, and that's really important. How often have you tried to overcome a process in your organization and felt and got back to the root cause? And the root cause is the software. It is based on the software that you've bought. This is completely adaptable, so you change it the way you want it. The process isn't dictated by the software. You also tailor the outputs, making sure that whatever the stakeholders want to see, the decision makers, they can see those decisions and they can see them in the way that they want to see them. And it loves disruption. It loves to change. Okay, and the next thing you can say, great, how much? Well, it's free. Unsurprisingly, the solution is MediaWiki. So the base, so the collaboration put together with the Semantic MediaWiki. And the Semantic MediaWiki allows you to take that collaborative framework and turn it into structured data. Now this is the concept that people get slightly stuck on. What do we mean by the structured data? How is that actually going to help me as an organization or whatever I'm trying to achieve? Let's take a step back. Okay, so you got Wikipedia. something close to my heart, Arsenal Football Club. The first ever page was created in 2001 and was a bunch of text, and it evolved through the years. And eventually what you've got is the page as it is now, or as of a few days ago. I'm sure it's changed since. But also a few things happened. The page keeps evolving, but also the other football club pages actually start evolving. They all started converging towards the same idea, the same organisation, the same way it's actually put together. And you can see there's been hundreds of contributors, the size of the page has increased, and that contribution keeps evolving as the football club keeps evolving. So this information changes and changes. But also the other thing that started to come out of this was people started developing graphics. So whether it be the table of contents, or the or tables, or even I found this quite. You can actually have an audio output, which I think is very nice, a very good feature. So all of these features started to come out, and all the other football clubs that and I'm just using football clubs as an example, all the other football club pages started following the same. So they all started converging towards the same thing. But the crazy thing is, all those things were manually input. So those tables that were put together, somebody's put in those dates, and that table is generated. So they've manually put that in. Where the league, the red lines representing where Arsenal's finished in the league, somebody's put those, manually put those in. Anybody who works in IT thinks that's slightly crazy, but in terms of visual information, in terms of what you're getting, what is being presented, it's really, really useful. So, I talked about structured data. If you look at the front page, there's so many different things within this page, the information that's coming out to you. If I asked you, when was the club founded? What is the capacity of the stadium? Where's the stadium located within the UK, within the world? You can go to this page and you can read that information. You can find that information. But if I started asking you more complex questions that involved all of the football clubs, so which stadiums are based in London, which have a stadium capacity between 60 and 80,000, you can manually go through all of that. But actually, what Semantic MediaWiki allows you to do is to capture that as data. So it allows you to fill in the pages, but actually, as far as you see, you're just seeing a page. What you don't realize is in the background, it's capturing that data and making it searchable. So rather than a bunch of text, which the computer just reads as a bunch of text, which you can search for words, this allows you to actually search for specific data within those pages. And that's, sort of a way I'd demonstrate it. You've got the power of the collaboration, and then it's enabling you to structure that data together. If you took this as a 1,000 feet view, this is my interpretation of it. You've got the user who's inputting information. Now, another really powerful feature is you can just create forms. So people think people are just filling in forms. Very simple forms, which are, could be either selected questions or text, but that automatically creates this data structure within the organization. You have editors that look like Word and looking more and more like Word. So there's less of a skills requirement for people to input information. So it's becoming more and more easy for people to input information. And then it's captured in this structured data in this open format, which allows you to talk back and forth with other APIs. And then you can present that information, whether you just want a page, or whether you want graphs, or whether you want maps. It doesn't matter. The point is that you can decide what the output is as you've created this structured data within your collaborative working area. So it's a really powerful concept, and again, the difficulty of getting MediaWiki and Semantic MediaWiki across is it's different for each person. It depends what your business case is, your use case is for Semantic MediaWiki. So it's quite interesting actually. I didn't realise there was a 50-50 split in terms of internal Semantic MediaWiki uses and external. I would have said it was more 80-20 in terms of internal. Um, what I would say is the best use cases are difficult to find because most people are keeping them behind their firewall. So, but there are more and more examples of the way MediaWiki is being exploited in this sort of data structure becoming prevalent on the internet. So these are just a few pages, and you don't even realize that they are actually wikis in the background necessarily. So, and it's good to see. And this more and more, I think more and more of this will become prevalent throughout the years. And so then, what sort of information do people present or try to capture? These are some real life examples where the businesses are located. It's NASA's tools, how they use them, where they're located in the International Space Station. You can have maps, you can have engineering tolerance. It really is, what is your question? What do you want to do with Semantic MediaWiki? What do you want to do with the data you've collected? So going all the way back to capturing your knowledge, making sure it's reusable, making sure you're not repeating the same mistakes that you inevitably do as a large organization. You know, all these things are business problems that can be solved by this capability. Now, I also talked about modern software methodologies of development. You know, you've hopefully heard of Lean. You've heard of Sigma. You've heard of Six Sigma. You've heard of Lean. You've heard of what was the other one? Agile. Thank you. I've heard of them as well, believe it or not. So they all have very, very similar themes. They're about producing a quality product for the customer. But they also talk about something else. They talk about feedback, the importance of build, measure, learn, and constantly doing that. Many times you think you know where you're going to finish up, but inevitably you're wrong. And that's a great thing. You know, it's a really enjoyable experience in terms of the road of that journey. The challenge, of course, is you've got multiple stake owners. So where you think it's going, where the people who are giving the money think it's going, and where the customers think it's going, can all diverge. And there's times where you're going to have to decide whether to pivot or persevere. And the other really key point is you can say to somebody, how good is your feedback? How effective is your feedback? And they'll say, it's really good. Well, who have you asked? You know, your opinion on how you've changed or how you've actually, how you pivoted, or the person with the purse strings who's actually financially providing it, is not necessarily the direction you want to go. And one of the key themes of lean engineering, Genchi Genbutsu. I've totally murdered that. I'm sure I'll get lots of abuse for that. Anyway, it was one of the key principles of the Toyota lean manufacturing. It's all about basically going out to the customer, taking the products, taking it to them. What Semantic MediaWiki and MediaWiki together make you do is actually go there and see, because you are creating this collaborative environment that everybody's a stakeholder and a part of. So it's forcing you to, even if you didn't want to do that, which of course you do want to do that, but there's sometimes, it's very difficult if you're on a big project. This is forcing that engagement with all the stakeholders, which again is a really powerful and useful concept that MediaWiki and Semantic MediaWiki help you towards. The one other point I'd talk about, so the benefits of MediaWiki, the Semantic MediaWiki, the feedback, you're getting that constant feedback loop, you're getting that customer engagement. It's also the prototyping, and the building the sort of minimal viable product. And this is just my personal experience, and all of you will have examples of this. You know, what is a productive day? Is it 10 hours spent at the keyboard? Well, it could be, but not if you're building the wrong thing. And so the really powerful thing I found is that you can build a prototype straight away. So the first thing I will do is just draw up a PowerPoint slide of how I see all of the elements within the wiki working, and then from there, you know, and that requires no time at the keyboard. I'll give you an example of one I did recently. From my understanding, what they wanted was lessons identified and then really populated in terms of country and regions and thematics and those sort of things. Actually, what it turned out was that bottom bit could be ignored. It's actually the creation of structured pages, you know, and that saved me a massive amount of time. And so when we moved on to the next bit, which was building the pages, we already had that pivot. And then next bit was building the pages and then building the forms. And straight away, you're getting into that development cycle, which is incredibly powerful, and making sure you're not wasting time at the keyboard. So that was a really quick canter through Semantic MediaWiki. It's in terms of where we've used it, it's been absolutely, you know, it has been revolutionary. So really, should you use it? Well, if you've got no information management problems, if you never make mistakes twice, if you if everybody knows exactly what each person does and everything is captured, then you don't need it. But I say for the majority of you, go out, try it, and I think you'll be extremely pleased with what Semantic MediaWiki can bring to your organisation. So, what to do next after this talk? I'd say, you know, go onto the website, join the community. It's one of the friendliest communities you'll come across. It is extremely helpful. Every time people pose questions, they get really helpful answers. So yeah, join the community. The more the merrier. So, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ben. This was really enlightening, especially drawing the connection between Semantic MediaWiki and lean management, management in general. Taichi Ono, the father of lean, he should have had a Semantic MediaWiki. So thanks very much. That was really very clear. This morning I tried to explain to somebody what Semantic MediaWiki is, but I think you did a much better job at it. So are there any questions to Ben at this moment? Yes. Sorry, but behind you the guy was earlier.
Oh.
Hi, Ben.
Hello, Billy. I haven't set this question up, by the way.
What do you see as the main blockers to introducing Semantic MediaWiki within big organizations?
I think one of the key things for it being introduced is having a champion. So somebody high up within the organization who absolutely drives it forward. I heard it on Between the Brackets, actually, so which is a podcast about MediaWiki, and forgive me, I can't remember who said it, but they were talking about how somebody would send an email saying, you know, somebody asked a question and the emails replied, and the person kept replying all, "That's great, can you put it on the wiki?" You know, that sort of organizational, so the top level wiki champion who absolutely says to everybody, capture it within the wiki, you're going in very much the right direction.
So I think one of the things, obviously we worked together on Semantic MediaWiki in the past, and I think one of the things is actual trust in the environment itself. You know, trust that the information is being managed within the tool.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something I didn't cover. the big elephant in the room, and I don't know what it is. I'm convinced it was a fake news campaign in terms of, when you say wiki, everybody sort of, goes, oh, you can't trust the information, and you absolutely can. You can lock down who can edit, you can see who's edited, and you can see when it's changed. So the question that Billy and I get a lot of the times is, if a contract's written at this time and the wiki's changed, how can we? Well, we just roll it back. It's a very simple solution. And so if you can show that the non-repudiation, you can show the history, you can show that you can lock it down in terms of who the editors are. It's a far better capability than a Word document or something else where you're not quite sure how it's evolved.
Okay, thank you.
So there was another question very early back here, no? No? Then we have Sabine up here.
I just have a small question. You were talking about feedback.
Yes.
Can you tell me, to me, feedback is something very conversational, usually. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you see that happening in the wiki, or how you would
Yeah, no,
support
it's a
that?
really good, it's a really difficult, good question. Difficult necessarily to nail down. A lot of people, I think the book that best talks about feedback is The Lean Startup. So that talks about a baselining what you have, understanding where you want to go, but understanding measurables in terms of what is it you want to achieve. So again, it's difficult because so give me an example of how a semantic media wiki would be used, and I'll try and offer an idea of feedback.
Let's take the example from the first talk, right? The technical knowledge base.
Okay, annoying. Yes, good.
They have a feedback button in.
Oh right,
the
sorry.
bottom, so
Okay,
that's-
sorry. I thought you meant
that's
yeah.
easy, yeah.
Yes, so that's obviously measuring a number of in terms of usefulness. So that's absolutely perfect for that, because that article is intended to be useful, is intended to save time, and so on. So what they've done is they've created measurables in terms of the value of that article. So I guess in terms of the feedback, it is the value of what you're trying to produce. So on another example, if you're using a wiki as policy as we were, the feedback that we should have is, does it provide you the relevant information? Is it accurate? Is it up to date? Up to date is extremely important when it comes to policy. So it really is the measurables that you see important within what you're developing as a wiki. And those should be probably some of the key, they're not milestones, but the key intents of that wiki. But that's my opinion. And the beauty is, but I do think it's very important to have those metrics up front.